of those impactful people in our lives that eventually got phased out, either due to them becoming unrecognizable to us or to external circumstances. Sometimes this may be a painless transition, and sometimes it may cause people to break down into the most vulnerable form. I'm here today as I believe that this generation is going to have more connections and yet have less meaningful ones that they are able to generate. This is because not of how we are born, but because of how we've been shaped by external circumstances and the effect it has on our future and long-term abilities. This is something that has been vastly accelerated with the prominence of social media. For one, it doesn't allow people of all ages, from teenagers to adults, to be comfortable in their own skin. And they often end up feeling like they're losing the race of life with futile attempts to compare themselves with others. An example of this is that in countries like Taiwan, Singapore, and the US have had double or triple the suicide rates among teenagers, now making suicide one of the top 3 leading causes of death among teenagers worldwide. Not to mention that depression rates over the last decade has even doubled, which all points to an extremely worrying future. Now, how does this link back to my earlier question? Although social media has allowed us to become more connected, it has also inadvertently caused us to have shallower relationships. We lack the time and dedication to do self-reflection, and instead replace that time with comparing ourselves to unrealistic or fake standards with people that we'll never end up talking to. Nowadays, people often let these surface-level connections stay this way. I don't think it's because of their innate choice or a lack of ability, but because of self-confidence. For example, I once knew someone in school that was very afraid of opening up about his experiences or engaging in deep conversations. Eventually, he did, and I later learned that this was because he was raised in a house that told him to keep his guard up around people. And I'm sure that this story resonates with some people to some degree or another. And a key difference is that the generation preceding ours was able to spend their free time outside and building important skills that help their future selves. We instead spend time glued to our screens, and not only causes a lack of character building, but also social skills, like being able to tell what people are feeling or reading people. A lack of practice in these skills provides many obstacles, and it reduces the amount of real friends that our generation is able to have. And these real friends are those that are with you for your highs and lows, and are always there irrespective of how others have been treating you. And this lack of deep connections of real friends that we're able to create often makes people feel alone and leads to them being emotional, overwhelmed, or even depressed. I understand that this is a difficult task to overcome. However, I do urge as many people to take the initiative where they can, as it will not only help you to make you feel accomplished, but also to learn or relearn the skills to foster those meaningful connections that ultimately help you lead and live a satisfactory life. My last point talks about how this lack of self-confidence arrives in the first place. I believe that this is the root cause of most problems in this generation, and is now increasingly inflicting upon the older generation too. It's the ability to feel comfortable in your own skin. Due to the overstimulation of the brain and the vast amounts of information that we receive on a daily basis, it's often too easy to filter out the bland, average, but realistic information that's out there. Instead, people look at the top echelon of the world for each aspect of our lives. And after comparing the vastly different worlds between them and ourselves, we wonder where we went wrong. In fact, about half of people globally identify more with self-doubt than self-love. And for teenagers, it's closer to 60%. Currently, most people believe that value and self-worth is held in quantifiable measures, like height or weight. In reality, life is more about the unmeasurable moments. And in order to achieve this, you can involve yourself in a variety of activities. A good example is doing volunteer work, as this allows you to interact with the community, share your life experiences, and to be more compassionate and be more comfortable with living within yourself. Lastly, a bit of self-imposed isolation can do good for people. This so-called isolation allows everyone to self-reflect, not from a place of sadness or from being behind in the race of life, but instead of critical objectivity, and allow oneself to propel themselves to new heights. Disconnecting and being alone for a bit is not only a bad thing for you, but I do believe it's beneficial and necessary to become a better version of yourself. To conclude, the fact of the matter is that paradoxically, we are more depressed and lonely because we have constant access and expect to be busy with interactions all day long. And when that doesn't happen, trouble starts. If we are instead comfortable in our own skin and not afraid of being alone, it brings that much more value to our social interactions that we do get to experience on a daily basis, and helps ourselves to build more self-confidence. That's all I have for today, and thank you for listening.